Buenas tardes. Hola, Kels. Hola, Cassandra. Hola, Kevin. Hola, Carolyn. ¿Cómo están?
Todo
How's it
bien, Pam.
going? Bien, excelente. Por fin vuelve a hacer sol. Finally, it's getting sunny again. Starting to realmente sentirse como verano. Actually feel like summer. ¿Qué tal su fin de semana largo? How was your long weekend? ¿Alguien tiene mascotas sufridas? Does anybody have any pets that suffered a little bit con el ruido with the noise? Jason, ¿tú? ¿Cuáles
No,
mascotas tienes? What pets do you have?
I have a dog, but she's actually more interested in the sounds. She wanted to go and investigate the sounds. She has a lot of confidence.
¡Qué valiente! How brave!
Yeah.
¿Alguien más tiene mascotas? Does anybody else have pets that were either interested or afraid of the fuegos artificiales, the fireworks? ¿Nadie? Ah, okay. Em, yo no tengo mis propias mascotas. I don't have my own pets. I travel too much. That's why I'm house sitting often for other people's pets. But um, el perro de mis padres, my parents' dog, se escapó por miedo. He escaped out of fear of the noise and saltó entrando al auto de otra persona. He jumped into somebody else's car who opened the door to try to see what he was up to, running off like that. They got him back, but it's just wild how much it can affect them sometimes. Did anybody else have fun plans during the long weekend or Dia de la Independencia, Independence Day? Hmm?
I went crab kayak fishing.
Crab kayak fishing?
Mhm.
Oh, is it crabbing and fishing in a kayak?
Crabbing is the variety of fishing in a kayak.
Oh, wow, okay. ¿Tuviste éxito? Were you successful?
Oh,
Did you
yeah.
catch much? Ooh, ¿y comiste de lo que pescaste?
No, they're in my fridge.
Oh, are you
Oh,
going
that
to eat
in my
them?
freezer. Yeah, I gotta wait for my buddy to get back from camping.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
sad about that.
qué divertido. How fun. Um, sorry, just go back to the pets thing. Speaking of, I'm the homeowner, the pet owner that I was watching the cats for will be here any minute. So when she gets here, I'm just gonna turn over her animals to her. So I might need a pause for like 2 minutes. And if I take a break, that's why. But it'll be no más de 5 minutos, no more than 5 minutes if that happens. So, eso dicho, that said, tenemos mucho que cubrir hoy. We have a lot to cover today because we're starting a new topic. We're finally getting to el, la, los, las, all of the Spanish gender that I've been promising we'd be getting to eventually. So we'll do that today. Antes de eso, tuvieron una actividad. You had an activity, lo cual era una autoprueba, so a self test that you could check your answers with our documents about numbers and days of the week and months, or correct them via Quizlet. Y la segunda parte, the second part was writing tu cumpleaños y también una fecha especial para ti, your birthday and a special date for you. So to start out, para empezar, I'm going to put you in breakout rooms and you'll share that information con tu compañero o compañera with your partners, or um, and then cuando volvamos, when we get back to a group, those of you that are feeling confident with what you wrote can share, and we'll get to learn about a special date for you all. So I'm going to go into that autoprueba primero. I'll go into that self-test first. Eh, Before we do that, a ver con la mano, with your hand, 1 al 5, 1 to 5, ¿cómo les fue? How did it go for you en una escala de 1 al 5? How do you think you did? 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, okay, okay, bien. So that had numbers, days of the week, months of the year on it. Which one was the most challenging to remember? Los números, las fechas, o los días? The days of the week, the numbers, or the months?
For me, it was most difficult to remember like the order in which you need to like say like the dates and things like that. So I had to, um, check for that. But yeah.
Excelente punto. Yeah, great point. It is a little bit diferente because we say the 4 of July, for example, and you need to say el cuatro. So let me just share that here. And acaba de llegar, so she just got here. Si me permiten un minuto, I'll share my screen. One second. Oh, ¿dónde estaba? Where did it go? Aquí está. Um, all right, so I'm going to share my screen and leave it on the writing practice for just 1 minute. I'm going to greet her and I'll be right back. Un minuto.
Hola, compañeros de clase. Anybody have any favorite soccer teams left?
I'm still rooting for Norway, but I was rooting for Mexico and Cabo Verde.
Those are my
I'm
two
with you.
as well.
Ah,
Cabo Verde
sí.
was fun.
No hablamos de esa decepción. We didn't get to talk about the game, did we? That was, ¿qué día era? What day was it? El día de los Estados Unidos.
Domingo.
Domingo.
¿El domingo pasado? Estados Unidos con Bélgica, US
On
with Belgium.
No,
lunes.
Lunes. Fue
El
lunes.
lunes. Fue el lunes pasado, yeah. I told my other classes, hubiera sido, it would have been this word here, polémico, polémico. And that means like controversial because, there was the change of the red card and the reversal and also just being a host country. So yo estaba decepcionada. I was disappointed, but it's not the worst case scenario that we lost, especially after playing so bad. No fue tan buen partido. It wasn't such a good game. Um, and of course, I made a fool of myself because when I went to watch the game at a local pub, I thought the US was in the opposite color. And so the first goal que fue marcado, the first goal that was scored, I cheered for Belgium frente a todos, in front of everybody. So that was a bonito momento para mí. A nice little moment for me. But all right, let's put you in groups and have you share this with each other. So, um, primero tienes que saludar. First, you need to greet your partner. Eh, Eso vamos a usar buenas tardes. So we'll use buenas tardes because it's the afternoon. And here we have an example from Profe Débora. So she says, "Good afternoon. Soy Débora. I'm Deborah. Soy de Federal Way. I'm from Federal Way." So you'll put your city or country or town of origin. Tu cumpleaños, your birthday. Y luego una fecha importante para ti, an important date for you. Did anybody stray from the vocab here and write an important date for you that wasn't on the list? Something you might have looked up? No? Well, if there is an important date for you in your life, like the day you adopted your pet or the day that, I don't know, you beat an illness or whatever it might be, let me know after our groups and we can add that a la lista para que lo puedas decir so that you can say it. Do we have any questions before I put you in breakout rooms so you can share those with each other? Preguntas, dudas? Okay. Démosle, let's do it. I don't know if we're pares or impares. I don't know if we're even or odd groups. I'll just do the breakout rooms and see. Yeah, looks like there'll be un grupo de tres. There will be one group of three. All right, and I'll see you in 5 minutos. I'll just give you 5 minutes for that. Hola, Amanda. Did you get a pop-up for the breakout rooms? Okay. Bienvenidos. Bienvenidos. Welcome back. I made it to most of the breakout rooms, but not all. Um, I missed a couple of them, so if I didn't make it in, please déjenme saber. Let me know if you had preguntas, if you had any questions. But as I was visiting some of the groups, some good words came up that are helpful in these types of discussions when you're sharing important dates, for example. So one of those words is, or I guess it's a phrase, what a coincidence. What a coincidence. And in Spanish, it's kind of a false friend, a false cognate. It seems like a different term than what it is. You say que, which is what, que casualidad. So it's not what a casualty. It means what a coincidence. What a coincidence. So I know some of you had the same wedding anniversary, for example. Um, maybe you have birthdays that are close together. So that's qué casualidad. What a coincidence. For those groups that I didn't get to see, do you have any preguntas o dudas, questions, doubts? All right. Pues tengo ganas de saber qué escribieron. I'm looking forward to hearing what you wrote. So, do we have algún voluntario para compartir su frase? Do we have a volunteer to share their short little paragraph?
I'll do it.
Okay, Rosie, por favor.
Okay, hold on. Let me go back to the paper real quick. Make sure I read it right. Okay.
All right,
Uh,
and before you start, Rosie, the rest of you, if, unless you were in her group, um, make a note if you've got a piece of paper, try to write down what you think she said, and we'll compare and see how your comprehension was. So, dale, Rosie, go ahead.
uh, Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Rosita. Soy de Sesun, California. Mi cumpleaños es el 8 de marzo. Una fecha importante para mí es el 20 y, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, y 25 de octubre. Eh, Porque es mi aniversario de boda.
Okay, okay, excelente. All right, so take a minute, process lo que dijo Rosita. And Rosie, could you translate so we can compare?
Just say the whole thing in English.
Yeah,
Okay. Good evening. My name is Rosie. I'm from Sassoon, California. My birthday is the 8th of March. An important date for me is the 25th of October because it's my wedding anniversary.
excelente. So just a couple of things here. The 20s, because 20 ends in that A sound already, we can't, we don't want to do 20-E. So Spanish is good at eliminating those repetitive sounds that blend together anyway. And that's why in the 20s, the E is not separate. It's all one word. So instead of saying 25, it's just 25.
Okay.
25.
Gotcha.
But the 20s are unique. Once you get to the 30s, it does have that separation. 35 versus 25. Can you all hear the difference there? The 20s are one word with an I in them. And then if any of you have months or saying days that have the O in them, like October is so easy to say octubre because it's so similar to the English. Just try to really hit those Spanish vowels. So the O is always O. Octubre. Octubre. So say the
Octubre.
O like somebody just enlightened you with a really interesting fact. Oh,
Oh,
octubre, octubre. Fantástico. Gracias, Rosita. Paul, levantaste la mano. I see your hand. ¿Quieres compartir? Would you like to share yours?
Yeah. All right. Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Paul. Soy de Tacoma. Mi cumpleaños es el 26 de julio. Una fecha importante para mí es el 14 de mayo porque es mi aniversario de boda.
¿El cuánto de mayo?
14.
14. Excelente. Okay. Procesen. Take a moment to process you all, and then we'll have him uh, read it in inglés. Okay. Paul, ¿puedes traducir? Could you translate?
Sí. Uh, Good evening. My name is Paul. I am from Tacoma. My birthday is July 26th. Important day for me is the 14th of May because it is my wedding anniversary.
Excelente. Buen trabajo. Yep, that's what I had too, so perfectly understood. Once again, we'll keep pointing out those vowel sounds. It's always the hardest when the word is similar to the English. So mayo and May are almost the same, but the A in Spanish is an I sound. So mayo, mayo.
Mayo.
Mhm. And I think we say it for like the holiday Cinco de Mayo in English. So if that helps to remember May, that that might eh, ayudarles a recordarlo, help you remember. Gracias, Paul. Perfecto. ¿Quién quiere continuar? Who would like to go next?
Yo.
Okay, Kels, perfecto.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Kels, soy de Tacoma. Mi cumpleaños es el 9 de agosto. Una fecha importante para mí es el 6 de marzo, porque es el cumpleaños de mi mejor amiga.
Okay. 6 de marzo porque es el cumpleaños de tu mejor amiga.
Sí.
Excelente, excelente. Okay. That was a new one, so think about it. Figure out if you comprehended that or not, and then we'll give Kels a minute to traducir. ¿Puedes traducir, Kels? Did you translate?
Um, Good evening. My name is Kels from Tacoma. My birthday is the 9th of August. Date that is important to me is the 6th of March because it is my best friend's birthday.
Maravilloso. Perfect. Perfecto. All right. I do want to hear from those of you who I didn't see in breakout rooms. Kathleen, oh, Kendra, Cassandra. Well, actually, now I'm forgetting which ones I saw or not. Carolyn, anybody that I didn't pop in to listen to in the breakout rooms, if you could read me one. Kendra, you want to go?
I'll go. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Kendra, soy de Yam.
Yeah.
Mi cumpleaños es el 3 de enero. Una fecha importante para mí es el 21 de abril, porque es el cumpleaños de mi hijo.
¿De tu amigo?
¿Cumpleaños de mi hijo?
Tu hijo.
Mi hijo, mi
Hijo.
hijo.
Okay. Muy
Ujú.
bien. So that word hijo, some of you might know it, some of you might not. Family members are coming up in class soon, but that's the word. Take a note of it, and then when we have Kendra translate, you'll find out what it is. Um, so I'll give you 1 second.
Good evening. My name is Kendra. I am from Yelm, and my birthday is January 3rd. An important date for me is the 21st of April because it is my son's birthday.
Muy bien, muy bien. So, mi hijo means
Mi
my
hijo.
son.
Mi hijo.
Yeah, and you had that. Great. So, um, daughter is la hija, la hija. And we'll learn
So
about
what's
that in a
the
sec.
difference when you hear them say mijo and mija? Mi.
Mijo, mija is just an endearing term, particularly in Mexico. And it just kind of combines my and daughter or son into one word, and it's like a pet name. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
sweet thing to say. Um, but you wouldn't necessarily say mijo when you're telling somebody about your daughter or
Okay.
son. That would still just be mi hijo or mi
Mi hijo.
hija.
Okay.
But if you're talking to them, yes, you'd say mijo, mija,
Mijo.
or
Mijo.
mijito,
Okay.
mijita. Bien. Kevin.
Okay, there we go. Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Kevin. Soy de Bonnie Lake. Mi cumpleaños es el 21 de agosto. Una fecha importante para mí es el 23 de noviembre porque es la adopción de mi hija.
La adopción de tu hija. ¿De qué año? ¿Cuántos años tiene tu hija? How old is she?
Uh, of course, it would be the hard one. 13, 13.
13 años. Ah, felicidades. Qué bueno. Okay, well, I interrupted you, and maybe not everybody got the chance to think about what you said. So, could you repeat that last part and see if there was some comprehension that you used some new terms? So,
Sure. I'll just start at the birthday. My birthday is the 21st of August. An important date for me is the 23rd of November because it is the adoption of my daughter,
muy bien.
the
So
day
you
we got
heard
to adopt.
la adopción. There's a cognate there, right? And then we hear that term again, son or daughter, hijo or hija. So, la adopción de mi hija. And there we can see some of the ways that the language will change with gender, with the O at the end or the A at the end. And so that will make sense later today when we go through those. So I do want to get to that. I want to hear all of your important dates, but I'll take one more for now. And then if you want to give it at the end or next time, I'd love to hear more, but we got to get to the grammar. So Kathleen, you
Yeah,
look like you're ready to start.
yeah. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Catalina, soy de Milton. Mi cumpleaños es el 17 de julio. Una fecha importante para mí es el 2 de diciembre porque es el día de mi jubilación.
Bien, yes, we finally get a jubilación. Some of you noticed jubilación is retirement. It makes sense that it's like your jubilation, right? La
Yes,
jubilación.
I love
Excelente.
it.
So, Kathleen, primero me vas a tener que decir dónde en Milton. You'll have to tell me later where in Milton because when I'm with my family there, we're neighbors. And you said buenos tardes.
I did.
Do you know how you would correct that?
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes. Yes, so that is called concordancia. That's called agreement. So all of Spanish will have an agreement between words in both gender and number. So that's a
Got it.
perfect segue into what we're about to do. I have a note that for next time, if there's anybody that wants to share their important date, we'll catch up on the rest of yours in a future class. So, Carolyn, I know you wanted to go. We'll hear from you in the Proxima. And if you want yours corrected but didn't get the chance to share today and don't want to in the next class, you can send me yours too, and I'm happy to do that. So let's start con el género. Let's get started with gender and number. And actually, before I even get onto this page, can you just tell me, díganme, ¿saben algo ya del género y número en español? Do you know anything already about gender and number in Spanish? Not so much? Okay. Yeah.
Ojalá que sí.
Ojalá que sí, hopefully, yeah. So the first thing to know is that it, gender, and there's actually a really good recent SNL sketch about it. Bad Bunny talks about inventing the Spanish language, and they're just throwing out words and they're saying, "Oh, I think this word should be feminine because it's like a girl." Or this word should be masculine because it's like a boy. But actually, we have to forget that idea completely because gender in language is not related to the way we think about it for people. It's really just a grammatical thing. Now that it will be applied to people and it will change, for example, let's say doctor versus doctora, right? You can change it if the doctor is a man or woman, for example. But generally, when we're just talking about nouns, things and places, etc., it's not to do with the vibe that something gives, that it seems masculine or feminine. It's actually the way the word is spelled, and it's just grammatical. So there are categories of the way you can determine if a word is either masculine or feminine, because every noun in Spanish tiene género. Every noun in Spanish has gender, every single one. Um, a número, number, when we refer to number in the language, it just means singular or plural. Okay, so when we combine words in Spanish, like a noun, a person, place, or thing, and an adjective, a describing word, they have to match in both gender and number. For example, if we wanted to say the black cats, we would say los gatos negros. The is in plural, cats are in plural, and black is in plural. And it's all masculine terms. Los is the in the masculine, gatos is a plural, or sorry, is a masculine noun, and negros is a masculine adjective. So we'll show you how to do that here in a second. But whenever we talk about that matching, I call it, or it is called concordancia, or agreement. So, first thing to start off with when we're talking about el género del idioma, the gender of the language, son los artículos definitivos, the definite articles, because they define something specific. These are all going to translate to the. All right? So there's a difference between saying pass me the pen versus pass me a pen. Right? A pen is any pen. It's indefinite versus the pen is a specific one. So it's definite. These are las cuatro formas de the, or the definite article in español. We have el, you can repeat after me,
El,
la,
La,
los,
los,
and las.
las.
Okay? So el is used for masculine singular words. La is for feminine singular. Los is for masculine plural. And las is for feminine plural. All right. I still want all of you to jump in if you have a question or want me to hear your pronunciation, but I'm going to mute all of you for now just because I'm hearing like a fan that's getting in my way. There we go. Okay. All right. So, siguiente, next one, the indefinite articles, if we're referring to a or an or some or a few, are as following. So, masculine singular is un, feminine singular is una, masculine plural is unos, and the feminine plural is unas. Okay. So, en español, cada sustantivo, every noun comes with an article. If it's in the singular, you're always going to use the article. And to answer your questions from the first class when we were working on the alphabet, you might have seen, for example, el queso on the list of vocabulary, el queso. And that can be translated in English as cheese or the cheese. So I explained to you before, in English, we don't always need the article with a singular noun. We can say cheese. I like cheese. Or if we're getting specific, like specific type of cheese, we say I like the cheese, I don't know, from Eastern Washington or whatever. In Spanish, if it's a singular noun, you always have to use an article, and that's why it could be translated either way in English. But in Spanish, it's siempre con el artículo, always with the article in singular. So you always have to say either el queso or un queso or los quesos, unos quesos. All right. In the sentence, it is different if they're plural. If it's more than one, that rule doesn't apply. But this is just to explain why. In the list of vocab, you'll always see words with their artículo, with their article. Think of it as like a title that it always has to come with. And I see a question in the chat. When do we say uno? Uno is the number. So if you're not using it with a noun, like if I say how many do you need? You would say uno, I need one. But if I say cuántos platos necesitas? How many plates do you need? You would say un plato, one plate, or a plate. So you use un or una, unos, unas with the noun, and uno, the number on its own, solo. So esta es la primera regla. Here's the first rule. Most nouns, and this is actually, I don't know, not most nouns. I would maybe label it 75, 80% of nouns, maybe less. I'd keep it at 75. They will follow the general rule of if it ends in an A, it's a feminine word. If it ends in an O, it's a masculine word. There are muchas excepciones. There are a lot of exceptions, and there are many words that don't end in either O or A. But it is a good place to start. Es una buena manera de empezar, un buen lugar. So if I say taco, for example, would you say it's masculine or feminine? Masculino. Sí, taco is masculine. So we could say el taco, the taco. We could say los tacos, the tacos. Or we could use the indefinite article. We could say un taco, a taco, or unos tacos, some tacos. So taco, it ends in an O and it follows that classic pattern of it is a masculine noun. All right, let's do a feminine one. How about mesa? Mesa, table. ¿Femenino o masculino?
Femenino.
Femenino. Yeah, es una palabra femenina. So, la mesa, the table. Las mesas, the tables. Unas mesas, some tables. Or una mesa, a table. We'll do lots of practice using the articles, so it's not something you have to have memorized right away. But I'm just showing you typically the endings will dictate if it's masculine or feminine, if it's O or A. Here are some examples. You can repeat after me. The floor, el suelo. The roof, el techo. The pen, el bolígrafo. At least in Spain, they say bolígrafo. Other places use pluma. And if you happen to know other words for pen, those are valid. Hat, el sombrero. That's like a brimmed hat. Sombrero comes from sombra, which is shade. So sombrero is not like a baseball cap, but it's like those traditional hats that block the sun and have a brim all the way around. Anyway, and teléfono, el teléfono. El teléfono. And some feminine words. So feather, another word or another word for pen, la pluma. Date, la fecha. Door, la puerta. Flag, la bandera. Brand, la marca. And candle, la vela, la vela. Okay, so como bien, as you can see, it's very arbitrary. It's not like a table is girlier than a hat or something like that. It's not what you is applied to people for gender. It's just the way the word is spelled. All right. Esta regla sería ideal si fuera al 100. This would be an ideal rule if it were 100% of words. They all ended in O or A. Lamentablemente no es el caso. Unfortunately, it's not the case. So starting with some exceptions of words that do end in either O or A, but break this rule. Están en la lista, they're on the list, but one that we've already learned is day. Day. El día. El día. And that's why when you say buenos días, it's not buenas días. It does have that ring to it if you say buenas días because it sounds like it has agreement, but it doesn't because día is actually masculine. That's why we say buenos días. Tarde is feminine. That's why we say buenas tardes. Otras excepciones, another exception, hand es la mano. La mano. It ends in O, but it's a feminine word. So plural, it would be las manos. Las manos. Another common one is water, agua. Actually, I take back agua. We'll get to that in a second because it's even more special than this one rule. But we'll do problem. Problem is el problema. El problema. So don't ever let anybody tell you no problema because that's wrong. Problem is masculine. El problema. El problema. So it ends in an A, but it's used with a masculine article. El problema. So the problem is masculine, but the solution is feminine. La solución, which I think is interesante, kind of interesting. Um, and yeah, these exceptions tend to happen for particular reasons. Generally, just like how English is a combination of it's got a little bit of a Latin root, it has some Germanic in it, it takes from some French. It's just a kind of a mesh of everything together. Spanish is a Latin Romance language and it's pretty direct from Latin, but it does take words from other places back in history. So usually if you have these weird situations where it's a word like mano, it's very clearly ends in O, but it's la mano, it's feminine. It typically is because it was adopted from another language at some point in time. A lot of them, like problema, um, I need to think of some more problem. Eh, tema, theme. Mapa, map. Those three are all A ending words, but they're masculine. El mapa, el tema, el problema. That happened specifically because they were taken from Old Greek. Greek had a neutral form of the language, but Spanish did not. So even though they were A ending words, Spanish always applies the masculine to a neutral term. So that's how they got combined together. And the reason I explain this is because it's easy to get frustrated, like, why? This doesn't make sense. This breaks the rules. But there typically always is a reason, and you have to go with the flow. And sometimes it's just learning the words one by one, while at the same time you're learning gender by category. So you have the categories to lean on, but they don't apply for everything. ¿Alguna pregunta por ahora? Any questions so far? See any? Jason, you said me gusta unos quesos. I like the cheeses. It would actually be me gustan los quesos. I like
Okay,
the
so why is Guston? Why is it plural if it's just me saying it? What would it be? Me gusta? Would it be me gusta el queso if it was singular?
If it was singular, it would be me gusta el queso.
But me liking cheese or me liking the cheeses, it's still me liking it. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. No,
All
it's
right.
a can of worms because
Okay.
the verb gustar, to like, is
Uh-huh.
not it's not an active verb. It's not you like. It's actually the cheeses are pleasing to me.
Okay.
So if it's plural cheeses, that's why it's gustan,
Oh, that's why
a
it's
plural
plural like.
verb
Oh,
to me.
okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Some
right.
and if that doesn't make sense to any of y'all, because I haven't heard much about
It
saying I
does.
like or I don't like what Jason's talking about, you'll learn that sometimes the most basic parts of Spanish are actually the most complicated parts, or like the most used terms are the most grammatically strange. And the verb gustar, to be pleasing to or to like, is one of those. But Jason, buena pregunta, good question. We'll get there. All right. So here, when we do start talking about people, you will be able to adjust the gender to match the person. Spanish is developing a neutral form, but it's not like dictionary applied yet or anything. So we're just going to stick to the masculine and feminine for now. But I always say if you have questions for me of how to alter them, I can help you. But when we're talking about the difference, for example, between a woman counselor and a male counselor or man counselor, we can change the word to suit the gender. So el consejero is counselor, and because it's an O ending word, that means it can be made feminine. So to make it feminine, we switch the O for an A, and we switch the el for the la. So here are some examples. El consejero is counselor, masculine. La consejera is counselor, feminine. El maestro is teacher, masculine. La maestra is teacher, feminine. El profesor is teacher, masculine, or la profesora is teacher, feminine. When Spanish does not know the gender, or it's a mix, like a mixed group of both men and women, for example, as I said, it always defaults to the masculine. So if you're saying like, I need a teacher, you would just say necesito un profesor. Un profesor. I need a teacher. ¿Preguntas?
Tengo un pregunta.
Sí, una pregunta.
Okay. Ve mi tenista hoy or ve mi la tenista hoy?
Dentista? Dentist?
Sí.
Is your dentist a man or a woman?
It's a woman, but my question would be is so ve me as I saw, right? Ve me.
Vi,
Is it
mi.
vi mi la tenista or just ve mi tenista?
Oh, buena pregunta. So, what Jason's talking about is when you're using the possessive and you're saying like my dentist, or you had some examples in the homework, my best friend, for example, or my wedding anniversary. If you're using a possessive term like my, yours, his, hers, that replaces the article. So you don't
Okay.
have to use
Okay.
el or la with it. So vi a mi dentista. I saw my
Yeah,
dentist
me.
today.
Okay. Gracias.
Enough. And continuing with the categories you can generally rely on, um, oftentimes gender is based on a group definition. So rivers, oceans, seas. Let me start with a different example first. Todas las letras del alfabeto son femeninas. Um, all of the words of the alphabet are feminine because they are letras. And that word, las letras, letters, is feminine. So because the word letters is feminine, all of the individual letters are feminine as well. La A, the A. La B, the B. La C, the C. In contrary, all of the days of the week are masculine because day is el día. So because they're all days, that's why every day of the week is masculine. El lunes, Monday. El martes, Tuesday. ¿Me explico? So you can kind of apply that looking here with um, rivers, oceans, mountain ranges. Rivers are all masculine because river is el río. It's a masculine word. Oceans are all masculine because the word is el océano, which is masculine. Mountain ranges are generally masculine because it would be like el monte, the mountain. There's some exceptions there, but this is just to show you that it can be the category that it comes from. And that's why we get terms like el Pacífico, the Pacific, or los Andes, the Andes, or los Alpes, por ejemplo. This one here is a really nice rule to know because it doesn't have exceptions. This one is reliable completely. So any nouns that end in sion or sion, they're pronounced the same way in Latin America. Spain would be sion and sion. Dad, tad, ud, or umbre, any of these endings will always be feminine. So, for example, la educación, education. La televisión, television. La libertad, freedom or liberty. Or la costumbre, custom. Eh, Also, most nouns that end in ele or ene son masculinos. Most nouns that end in L or N are masculine. Por ejemplo, el papel, paper, el nivel, level, el jardín, garden, or el botón, button, button. And this is the unfortunate part where I say you kind of have to learn some just word by word. Is there's these random letter endings that don't really give us an idea by the ending. So if they end in Z, for example, zeta, or ese, for example, S, or even la E, even with E, you don't really know unless you look up the word or are told the word. And that's okay because anytime you learn a new term in Spanish, you'll learn it with the gender. So it's not going to require extra studying to figure it out, but it's just that the ending will not define it. So that list there, uh, you can see we have like la luz. Luz ends in a Z, but it's feminine, versus el lápiz, pencil, also ends in a Z, but it's masculine. So it just depende. In this case, it depends. ¿Tienen preguntas por ahora? Any questions for now? No? I imagine some of you had seen before this idea of O versus A endings, right? And so that's a big chunk of it, but as you can see, there's just these special aspects to them too. This is a basic definition. We have more specific ideas that we'll talk about in the future, but some other things to know are, for example, words that are shortened from a longer term might be surprising with gender. So if I say the word photo, photo, photo means picture or photograph. It ends in an O, right? So you might assume that it's masculino. The thing is that photo is a word that's shortened from a longer term. It comes from fotografía, fotografía, which means photograph. Fotografía is feminine. So it's la fotografía. And even if you're using the shortened term photo, you would still use the feminine article, la foto or las fotos. Same thing with motorcycle. Motorcycle is la moto. Even though it ends in O, it's actually short for motocicleta. So it's la moto. And even words like tequila. Tequila seems like it'd be feminine because it ends in A, but it's el tequila because it comes from el licor de tequila, the liquor of tequila. Those are kind of far and few between, so you don't have to worry that every word is going to be a mystery and actually longer than what you're hearing. But just know there's always going to be a reason why that exception is happening. And anytime you look up a new word in the dictionary, it'll give you in parentheses typically either efe for feminine or eme for masculine, M for masculine. And that'll tell you. So masculine words, you use the definite articles el or los, or the indefinite articles un, unos. And the feminine always uses the feminine articles la or las, una or unas. And we'll get plenty of practice with using those titles. ¿Ahí tiene preguntas o comentarios? No questions or comments? No? Okay, let's keep going. All right. Now we need to talk about número, number. Every word has singular or plural. This is not different from English, so the idea should be a little more simple. Generally, if it ends in an O or an A, you can make it plural just by adding the S, la S al final, S to the end. If it does not end in a vowel, you can add the vowel ES to the end, ES. So, for example, el libro is singular, it's the book. And to make it plural, we need to change the article from the singular el to the plural los. So we have los. And then because it ends in O, it's very easy to make it plural because we just tack the S on to the end. Los libros. Los libros. The reason why with words like this, oración o las oraciones, we can't just put the S at the end of oración because en español la S no le gusta estar sola. The S does not like to be alone without a vowel with it. And I find this interesting, like in defense of any native Spanish speaker speaking English, there's a definite reason why they say es Spain or es stupid, adding that E before. It's because in Spanish the S never goes right next to a consonant. It's always with a vowel. So Spanish speakers will add that vowel in instinctually even when they're speaking English. So, and an interesting thing to pay attention to. Going back to las oraciones, as you can see, it ends in an N, and that's why we add the ES, las oraciones. Oración means sentence. So la oración, the sentence, las oraciones, the sentences. If you know about spelling in English, you would recognize that this has to happen sometimes where we do a spelling change. For example, leaf ends in an F, and when we make it plural in English, we have to change it to a V, leaves. There is a version of this in Espanol. If it ends in a zeta, if it ends in a Z, then you've got to add a C instead. El lápiz, los lápices. So that's just a spelling change. This note here about time was from another class because we have the word vez, which means the time, and then I had to explain that there's 3 different words for time. There's the instance, like an occurrence, which is la vez. There's the clock time, which is la hora, or the elapsed time, like how much time is spent on something. So you can ignore that note if you want. It's not really related to the lesson at hand. That was there because somebody had a question prior. And when we are using names that refer to relationship or rank, typically family members, they will have both masculine and feminine versions, sort of like the professions that we saw before with like counselor, teacher, professor. So we talked about earlier, hijo, hija. El hijo is son, la hija is daughter. Almost all words for family members are the same word, just one in the masculine and one in the feminine, only with the exception of daughter-in-law and son-in-law. But the rest of them they share the same word, just in masculine and feminine. So el hermano is brother. La hermana is sister. Los hermanos is either brothers or brothers and sisters. All right. So this is the next point I want to make is that, as I touched on a second ago, if you have a mixed group or you don't know the gender, the default is masculino. The default is the masculine. And so this is why I would refer to you all as los estudiantes, the students. If we were a group of just women, only then could it be las estudiantes. So yeah, it's true. Even one man in a group of 100 women will taint the gender of the grupo, and it has to become los estudiantes. ¿Quieres una pregunta?
I just had a question, like, how would you differentiate if someone was talking about like their three brothers versus like their brother and two sisters? Like, would you just have to ask?
You would just have to ask. And
Yeah.
like in English, we can say my siblings,
Sure.
right? Or
Yeah.
my brothers and sisters. But yeah, it's only clear if you're using the feminine that it's all
Mhm.
sisters. But if it's the masculine, it could be either all brothers or brothers and sisters. And I like to use an example of when I was teaching at an elementary school in Spain, I was teaching the students English, and there were like almost every other student, I would ask them who they lived with, and they would always say, I live with my dads. And I thought, wow, what a coincidence. There's a lot of students that have two dads at this school. I wonder if it's the area, like it just seems to be more popular than I've ever seen before for such a small school. But it wasn't until it kind of clicked with me with the grammar. It's because in Spanish, los padres, it could be mother and father or father and father. And so because it has both those options, there's no neutral form in their minds in English. They would have to say my mom and dad if they have a mother and a father. But in their grammar, if they say my dad's, it could mean my two dads or my mom and dad. Me explico? Does that make sense? So a mixed group is either two masculine or more, or a mix.
Okay.
Same.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Continuamos. We'll keep going here. So lo que quiero que hagan para la tarea, what I'd like you to do for your homework is here you have your list from the ABCs vocabulary from the very beginning of class. You'll go through and switch the um, masculine, sorry, not with gender, excuse me. This is just to practice the singular and plural. So, for example, if you have la chica, the girl, I want you to go in and add the girls. So you'll change that to las chicas, las chicas. If you have el dinero, money, you'll change that to los dineros, the monies. Not all of them are going to make perfect sense in plural, but this is just a spelling and activity to practice it with some words that you've already had. So you will end up with some weird ones like the easts, but no importa. Um, I'm gonna cross out though la gente. We'll talk about gente in the future. I don't want you to do that one because it's always singular. Right. So yeah, I'll assign that to you in homework and give you some clear instructions, but you're just going to practice the artículos. So the articles, specifically the definite articles, the or the plural. ¿Alguna pregunta? Any questions? No? All right.
Sí.
So last thing, so I'll get to the one
Okay.
second. I just have last point. When we're talking about agreement, um, that is what makes the language so beautiful because when you're using describing words with nouns or when you're using the articles with nouns, they'll tend to have this flow because they'll all match. And that's why you get words like las hermosas páginas, the beautiful pages, or los cielos lindos, the beautiful skies. Every word will match up with its article, the, and its descriptor. That's agreement, concordancia. Jason, tu pregunta, your question?
Let's see. So, is it mis hermanos or mi hermanos? Because hermanos is plural. It's mis hermanos,
hermanos.
just
Yeah.
like cheese and Guston. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So even when we get to the possessives like my or yours, that
Uh-huh.
will have agreement too. That will have singular or plural
Okay.
depending on what you're describing.
But it's the hermanos that's plural that makes the mis and not me. Okay. All right.
Exacto,
Okay.
exacto.
Cool.
Sí.
Gracias.
¿Otras preguntas?
¿Cómo se dice we are the same age? Vince and I were talking.
Tenemos. Oh, qué casualidad. What a coincidence. You would say tenemos. We have. Tenemos
Okay.
la misma, the same,
Uh-huh.
edad. Tenemos la misma edad. We have the same age.
Why not?
Nos edades.
No, good question. Edad is just it would be like saying we have the same ages, which we don't in English. So it's singular in Spanish. Yeah.
And no nosotros tenemos puts them together. I have and we have. Tenemos is we
You can
have.
say nosotros tenemos.
Tenemos,
Yeah.
but tenemos works just fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
Okay.
we'll see why when we start to do verbs, but
Okay.
essentially the subject is inside of the verb too.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Estamos viejos.
We're old. Somos viejos. Nah,
Sí,
no
sí.
puede ser. No se ven.
Mayores.
Mayores, older. Well,
Mm.
I kind of dumped a lot of talking and grammar onto you today, so we'll try to get you speaking even more in the next one. But we hopefully introduced the topic in a way that you're starting to catch on to, and we'll do mucha práctica en los días que vienen. We'll do a lot of practice in the upcoming days, and I'll send you la tarea en el recap. We'll send you any homework in the recap.
Nice.
Que pasen una bonita semana. Have a good week y bonito fin de semana. A good weekend. Nos vemos en la próxima clase. I'll see you in the next one.
Hasta la
Buenas tardes.
Luego. Chao. Gracias.
Adiós.